California's crippling drought. This is Lake Mendocino in Northern California.
California, the Golden State, is facing a water emergency that's far from golden.
Here's a satellite picture of the state from January 2013. And this is from January of this year.
Water that sustains so many communities throughout the state, those are less than half full.
Vast reservoirs transformed into muddy puddles, mighty rivers reduced to trickles, and lush farmlands turning into dusty wastelands. It's not a scene from a post-apocalyptic movie, it's the harsh reality of California's current water crisis. But how did we get here, and just how bad is it? A dire situation unfolding. Let's start with the numbers, and brace yourself. They're not pretty. California's water system, once the envy of the world, is now running on empty. The state's largest reservoir, Shasta Lake, is sitting at a mere 38% of its total capacity. Lake Oroville, the second largest, isn't faring much better at 55%. But it's not just about big lakes and dams. California's entire water network is feeling the strain. The iconic Colorado River, a lifeline for 7 states, including California, is at its lowest levels since the 1930s. You might be wondering, haven't we seen droughts before? Yes, but not like this. The current dry spell is part of what scientists are calling a mega drought, the worst in 1,200 years. Let that sink in for a moment. To truly grasp the magnitude of this crisis, we need to look at the bigger picture. California's water system was designed to capture snow melt from the Sierra Nevada mountains, storing it for use during the dry summer months. But with climate change altering weather patterns, this once reliable system is breaking down. Warmer winters mean less snowpack, and what snow does fall is melting earlier in the year. Now you might be thinking, what about groundwater? Can't we just pump more from underground? Well, that's where things get even more concerning. Years of overpumping have left many of California's aquifers depleted. In some areas of the Central Valley, the ground has literally been sinking as water is extracted faster than it can be replenished. This isn't just bad for water supply, it's causing damage to infrastructure and changing the landscape itself. The numbers paint a grim picture, but what does this mean for everyday Californians? It means shorter showers, brown lawns, and hefty water bills. In some rural communities, wells have run dry, forcing residents to rely on bottled water for their daily needs. Imagine not being able to turn on your tap for a glass of water. That's the reality for some Californians right now. But the impact goes far beyond personal inconvenience. California's $50 billion agricultural industry, which produces over a third of the country's vegetables and 2/3 of its fruits and nuts, is in jeopardy. Farmers are having to make tough choices, leaving fields fallow or switching to less water-intensive crops. This is a national food security issue. The environment is taking a hit too. Wetlands are drying up, leaving migratory birds without crucial habitats. Fish populations are struggling as rivers heat up and water levels drop. The iconic salmon runs of the Sacramento River are at risk of collapse. And let's not forget about the forest's drier conditions are turning California's woodlands into tinderboxes, fueling larger and more intense wildfires each year. It's not all doom and gloom, though. Californians are adapting, finding innovative ways to conserve water. Cities are investing in water recycling plants, turning wastewater into drinking water. Farmers are adopting precision irrigation techniques, using sensors and drones to apply water only where it's needed. And ordinary citizens are doing their part, replacing thirsty lawns with drought-resistant landscaping and installing water-efficient appliances. But is it enough? The harsh truth is that these efforts, while commendable, are just a drop in the bucket compared to the scale of the problem. California's water crisis is a complex issue with no easy solutions. It's a perfect storm of climate change, population growth, aging infrastructure, and outdated water rights laws. As we wrap up this overview of California's water crisis, one question looms large. What are the root causes of this dire situation, and could it have been prevented? To answer that, we need to dig deeper into the factors that have brought the Golden State to the brink of a water catastrophe. The root causes of California's water crisis. California's tale is one of climate change, explosive growth, outdated systems, and perhaps most surprisingly, a dash of gold rush-era laws still shaping water policy today. Let's start with the elephant in the room: climate change. California's Mediterranean climate has always been characterized by wet winters and dry summers, but climate change is turning the dial up to 11. Over the past century, California's average temperatures have risen by about 2.5 degrees Fahrenheit, or 1.4 degrees Celsius. This might not sound like much, but it's having profound effects on the state's water cycle. Remember those snowy Sierra Nevada peaks? They're California's natural water towers, traditionally holding about 30% of the state's water supply in frozen form. But warmer temperatures are causing two major problems. First, more precipitation is falling as rain instead of snow. In fact, since 1950, the percentage of precipitation falling as snow in the Sierra Nevada has decreased by 10%. Second, the snowpack that does form is melting earlier in the year. The result? Less water available during the hot, dry summer months when it's needed most. But climate isn't the only culprit. California's population has exploded from about 10 million in 1950 to nearly 40 million today. That's a lot more showers, toilets, and lawn sprinklers drawing from the same water sources. Urban water use has actually become more efficient over time, with per capita water use dropping by 16% between 1994 and 2019. However, the sheer number of people means overall demand continues to rise. Now here's where things get really interesting and a bit frustrating. Much of California's water infrastructure was built in the mid-20th century, designed for a population and climate that no longer exist. The State Water Project, completed in 1973, is a marvel of engineering, moving water 700 miles from Northern California to the thirsty South. But it wasn't built to handle the extreme fluctuations in water availability we're seeing now. Adding to this challenge is a water rights system that feels like a relic from another era, because it is. California still operates under a first-in-time, first-in-right principle established during the gold rush. This means that some users, often with rights dating back to the 1800s, can claim their full water allotment even in times of severe drought. Agriculture, which uses about 80% of California's developed water supply, is at the center of this debate. The state's $50 billion agricultural industry has made California the breadbasket of America, producing over 400 commodities. But some critics argue that water-intensive crops like almonds and alfalfa, which alone use about 10% of California's water supply, are unsustainable in an increasingly arid climate. Here's a shocking statistic. It takes about 1.1 gallons of water to grow a single almond. With California producing 80% of the world's almonds, that adds up to a lot of water. But before we point fingers solely at farmers, it's important to note that agriculture has made significant strides in water efficiency. Since 1967, California has increased its crop production by 38%, while reducing agricultural water use by 14%. The overuse of groundwater is another critical issue. For years, California was the only Western state without comprehensive groundwater regulation. This led to a pump-as-you-please mentality, especially during droughts when surface water was scarce. The result? Severe overdraft of aquifers, particularly in the Central Valley. Some areas have seen land subsidence of more than 20 feet due to groundwater depletion, causing damage to infrastructure and reducing the aquifer's ability to recharge. In 2014, California finally passed the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, but its full implementation isn't required until 2040. That's a long time when you're in the middle of a water crisis. We can't ignore the role of water management decisions either. In wet years, environmental regulations often require large releases of water from reservoirs to protect fish populations and delta ecosystems. While these releases serve important ecological functions, they've been criticized for reducing water available for human use in subsequent dry years. As we piece together this complex puzzle, a question emerges. With all these intersecting challenges, how is California's water crisis impacting its agricultural heartland and the economy at large? The ripple effect, agriculture and economy. California's Central Valley, often called America's fruit and vegetable basket, is feeling the heat, quite literally. As we dive into the impact of the water crisis on agriculture and the economy, prepare for a journey through dusty fields, empty orchards, and communities grappling with an uncertain future. Let's start with a bird's-eye view. California's agricultural sector is a behemoth, producing over 1/3 of the country's vegetables and 2/3 of its fruits and nuts. But this agricultural powerhouse is built on a foundation of water, and that foundation is cracking. As water allocations shrink, farmers are faced with tough choices. Do they let fields lie fallow, switch to less thirsty crops, or drill deeper wells, potentially depleting groundwater resources further? These aren't just academic questions, they're decisions that impact livelihoods, food security, and the very landscape of California. One stark statistic tells the story. In 2021, drought conditions forced farmers to leave about 395,000 acres of cropland unplanted, an area larger than Los Angeles. This isn't just lost produce, it's lost jobs, lost income, and lost economic activity rippling through rural communities. Let's zoom in on one crop to understand the domino effect. Tomatoes. California produces about 95% of America's processed tomatoes, the kind that end up in your pizza sauce or canned soup. But in 2022, tomato acreage in California dropped by 37% due to water shortages. This isn't just a problem for pasta lovers. It's causing price spikes and supply chain disruptions across the food industry. The story of almonds is equally telling. These water-hungry nuts have become a symbol of California's agricultural dilemma. In good years, they're a lucrative crop, but they require consistent water year after year. As water becomes scarcer, some farmers are making the painful decision to bulldoze healthy almond orchards, a sight that would have been unthinkable a decade ago. But it's not just about what's happening in the fields. The water crisis is reshaping entire communities. In the San Joaquin Valley, the heart of California's agricultural region, the drought is exacerbating long-standing economic challenges. Towns that depend on seasonal farm work are seeing rising unemployment. Local businesses, from equipment dealers to diners, are feeling the pinch as farm incomes shrink. The crisis is also accelerating a shift in California's agricultural landscape. Larger farming operations, with deeper pockets and more resources, are better equipped to weather the storm. They can afford to drill deeper wells, invest in water-efficient technologies, or even buy out struggling smaller farms. This consolidation raises concerns about the future of family farming in California and the potential loss of agricultural diversity. Innovation is blooming in the face of adversity. Farmers are turning to precision agriculture, using drones and satellite imagery to target irrigation more efficiently. Some are experimenting with drought-resistant crop varieties or exploring agroforestry techniques that can reduce water needs. These adaptations show the resilience of California's agricultural sector, but they also come with significant upfront costs that not all farmers can afford. The economic impact extends far beyond the farm gate. California's agricultural exports, valued at over $20 billion annually, are a key component of the state's economy. As production falters, it's not just local communities feeling the pinch, it's the entire state's economic engine sputtering. Moreover, the crisis is forcing a reevaluation of water's economic value. In some areas, water is becoming so precious that it's more valuable than the crops it could grow. This has led to a controversial practice of water trading, where some farmers sell their water rights to cities or other farmers, sometimes leaving their own fields unplanted. As we think about these sweeping changes to California's agricultural landscape and economy, a crucial question emerges. What toll is this water crisis taking on the state's delicate ecosystems and wildlife? The answer to this question reveals yet another dimension of this complex crisis, where the needs of nature collide with those of agriculture and urban development. Nature's tipping point. As California's water crisis deepens, it's not just farms and cities feeling the pinch. The state's ecosystems are unraveling at an alarming rate. From the snow-capped Sierra Nevada to the sprawling wetlands of the Central Valley, nature is sending out distress signals that we can't afford to ignore. First, we have California's rivers, the arteries of the state's water system. The Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta, where the state's two largest rivers meet, is a key battleground. This estuary, once teeming with life, is now a shadow of its former self. Reduced freshwater flows are allowing saltwater to creep further inland, altering the delicate balance that countless species depend on. Take the Delta smelt, for instance. This tiny, silvery fish might not look impressive, but it's a crucial indicator of the Delta's health. Once abundant, it's now on the brink of extinction in the wild. In 2021, for the first time in 50 years of surveys, not a single Delta smelt was found in the wild. This isn't just about one fish. It's a red flag for the entire ecosystem. But the crisis extends far beyond the Delta. California's iconic salmon runs are in dire straits. The Chinook salmon, once so plentiful they were said to crowd river waters black, are facing a perfect storm of challenges. Low water levels and rising temperatures are making rivers inhospitable, while dams block access to historic spawning grounds. In 2022, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife took the extraordinary step of trucking millions of juvenile salmon to the Pacific Ocean, bypassing deadly river conditions. The story in California's wetlands is equally grim. These vital ecosystems, which act as nature's kidneys and provide critical habitat for migratory birds, are disappearing at an alarming rate. Since the 1800s, California has lost an estimated 95% of its historic wetlands. The remaining fragments are under intense pressure from the water crisis. Consider the Tule Lake National Wildlife Refuge in Northern California. This wetland, a crucial stop on the Pacific Flyway for millions of migratory birds, has seen its water supply slashed by 90% in recent years. The result? Vast mudflats where water once stood, leaving birds with nowhere to rest and feed during their grueling journeys. But it's not just aquatic ecosystems feeling the heat. California's forests, already stressed by years of drought, are becoming tinderboxes. Since 2010, over 147 million trees have died in California's national forests due to drought and bark beetle infestations. This massive die-off is fueling larger, more intense wildfires that further degrade water quality and wildlife habitat. The water crisis is even impacting California's iconic redwood forests. These ancient giants, some over 2,000 years old, rely on coastal fog for up to 40% of their water intake. But climate change is altering fog patterns, potentially putting these majestic trees at risk. As ecosystems unravel, the impacts ripple through the food web. Take the case of the tricolored blackbird, a species unique to California. These birds rely on wetlands and flooded agricultural fields for nesting. As water becomes scarce, their breeding habitat is disappearing, contributing to a 55% population decline since 2008. The crisis is also exacerbating conflicts between human water needs and environmental protection. In drought years, debates rage over how much water should be allocated to maintain river flows for fish versus supplying farms and cities. These aren't just academic discussions, they're life and death decisions for many species. It's not all doom and gloom, though. Conservation efforts are making a difference in some areas. The Kern National Wildlife Refuge, for instance, has pioneered water-efficient wetland management techniques, maintaining critical habitat with less water. And innovative projects like floodplain restoration are showing promise in creating win-win scenarios for both wildlife and water supply. As we grapple with the cascading impacts of California's water crisis on its ecosystems and wildlife, a critical question emerges. What strategies and solutions are being developed to address this multifaceted crisis? And can they turn the tide before it's too late? The answer to this question holds the key to California's water future and the delicate balance between human needs and environmental preservation. Solutions and future outlook. The path forward is neither straight nor easy, but across the state, innovative solutions are taking root, offering glimmers of hope in a parched landscape. From cutting-edge technology to policy reforms and nature-based solutions, California is becoming a laboratory for water management in a changing climate. Let's dive into the world of water conservation, where every drop counts. California has made impressive strides in urban water efficiency. Since the last major drought in 2015, per capita water use has decreased by 16%. Cities like Los Angeles are leading the charge. The Los Angeles Department of Water and Power's turf replacement program has helped remove over 50 million square feet of thirsty lawn, replacing it with drought-tolerant landscaping. But the efforts don't stop at landscaping. Smart water meters are becoming increasingly common across the state. In San Francisco, the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission has installed over 180,000 automated water meters, allowing residents to track their water use in real time and quickly identify leaks. This technology has helped the city reduce water waste and encourage conservation. However, conservation alone won't solve the crisis. Enter the world of water recycling and reuse. Orange County's groundwater replenishment system is a shining example of what's possible. This facility, the largest of its kind in the world, takes treated wastewater that would have been discharged into the Pacific Ocean and purifies it to exceed drinking water standards. It currently produces enough water for nearly 850,000 people annually. Projects like this are changing the game, turning what was once considered waste into a valuable resource. The success of Orange County's system has inspired other regions. In Los Angeles, Operation Next Water Supply Program aims to recycle 100% of the city's wastewater by 2035, potentially providing up to 70% of the city's water supply. This ambitious project represents a paradigm shift in urban water management, viewing wastewater as a resource rather than a disposal problem. Desalination, the process of removing salt from seawater, is another technology gaining traction. The Claude Bud Lewis Carlsbad desalination plant, which opened in 2015, produces 50 million gallons of drinking water daily, enough for 400,000 people. However, desalination isn't without controversy. High energy costs and environmental concerns, particularly the impact on marine life, have led to pushback against some proposed projects. To address these concerns, companies like Oceanus Power and Water are developing innovative solutions. Their seawater pump storage system combines desalination with renewable energy storage, potentially making the process more environmentally friendly and cost-effective. While still in the development stage, technologies like this could be game changers for coastal communities. In agriculture, which uses about 80% of California's developed water supply, innovation is blooming in the face of scarcity. The Terra Nova Ranch in the San Joaquin Valley is pioneering a technique called on-farm recharge. During wet years, they flood their fields with excess water, allowing it to percolate into the groundwater. This not only replenishes aquifers, but also reduces flood risk downstream. It's a win-win solution that's gaining traction across the state. The Almond Board of California, representing an industry often criticized for its water use, has committed to reducing the amount of water used to grow a pound of almonds by 20% by 2025. They're investing in research on drought-resistant rootstocks and precision irrigation techniques to achieve this goal. Technology is also playing a crucial role. Companies like Ceres Imaging are using aerial imagery and artificial intelligence to help farmers optimize irrigation. Their system can detect plant stress before it's visible to the naked eye, allowing for precise water application. This kind of precision agriculture is helping farmers produce more crops per drop. Another innovative approach comes from CropX, an ag analytics company that uses soil sensors and weather data to provide irrigation recommendations. Their system has helped some farmers reduce water use by up to 30% while maintaining or even improving yields. But technology alone isn't enough. Policy changes are crucial, and California is making moves. The Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, passed in 2014, requires local agencies to bring groundwater basins into balanced levels of pumping and recharge by 2040. It's a long-term plan, but it's forcing communities to confront hard truths about water use. The implementation of SGMA has sparked innovative collaborations. In the Pajaro Valley, for instance, a diverse group of stakeholders, including farmers, conservationists, and water managers, have come together to develop a groundwater sustainability plan. Their approach, which includes water conservation, recycling, and managed aquifer recharge, is becoming a model for other regions. Water markets are another tool gaining traction. The Environmental Defense Fund has been working with partners to develop water trading platforms that allow farmers to buy and sell water allocations. This can help water move to where it's most needed, increasing overall efficiency. However, these markets need careful oversight to ensure they don't exacerbate inequalities. The Nature Conservancy is piloting a program called Water Shares, which aims to create a more flexible and sustainable water management system. By separating water rights from land ownership, the program allows for more efficient allocation of water resources while protecting environmental flows. Nature-based solutions are also part of the mix. The Nature Conservancy's Sacramento Valley Groundwater Recharge Project is working with farmers to create temporary wetlands on agricultural land during the winter. This not only recharges groundwater, but also provides crucial habitat for migratory birds. It's a powerful example of how environmental and agricultural needs can align. In urban areas, the concept of sponge cities is gaining ground. Los Angeles's watershed approach to landscaping promotes the use of rain gardens, bioswales, and permeable pavements to capture stormwater, reduce runoff, and recharge groundwater. The city aims to source 70% of its water locally by 2035, reducing its reliance on imported water. But what about the elephant in the room? Climate change. California is taking bold steps here too. The state's climate adaptation strategy, released in 2021, outlines a comprehensive approach to building resilience. This includes everything from forest management to reduce wildfire risk, which impacts water quality, to investing in green infrastructure in cities to capture and clean stormwater. The Department of Water Resources is incorporating climate projections into its planning processes. Their climate change vulnerability assessment helps identify risks to the State Water Project, California's main water distribution system, and develop adaptation strategies. Public engagement is crucial in this fight. The Save Our Water campaign, a partnership between the California Department of Water Resources and the Association of California Water Agencies, is working to make water conservation a California way of life. Their practical tips and resources are helping Californians reduce water use in their daily lives. Education is another key battleground. The Water Education Foundation has been working for decades to foster understanding of water issues. Their Water Leaders program is training the next generation of water managers, ensuring that innovative thinking will continue to flow. Universities are also stepping up. The UC Davis Center for Watershed Sciences is at the forefront of interdisciplinary water research, bringing together experts in hydrology, ecology, economics, and policy to tackle complex water challenges. As we look to the future, it's clear that there's no silver bullet solution to California's water crisis. Instead, it will take a combination of technological innovation, policy reform, behavioral changes, and ecosystem restoration. The path forward will require difficult choices and trade-offs. One emerging area of focus is the water-energy nexus. The California Energy Commission is funding research into water-saving energy production and energy-saving water systems. For instance, The Turlock Irrigation District is piloting a project to cover irrigation canals with solar panels, reducing water evaporation while generating clean energy. Indigenous knowledge is also gaining recognition as a valuable resource in water management. The Yurok tribe's efforts to restore the Klamath River, including the removal of dams, offer lessons in holistic watershed management that could be applied elsewhere in the state. Looking ahead, California's water future will likely involve a more diverse and resilient water portfolio. This could include increased use of recycled water, stormwater capture, groundwater banking, and even atmospheric water generation, pulling water from the air in arid regions. Companies like WaterGen are already deploying atmospheric water generators in some California communities as a supplement to traditional water sources. While not a large-scale solution, technologies like this could play a role in a more diversified water system. As California navigates this complex water landscape, it's becoming a living laboratory for water management in a changing climate. The successes and failures here will offer valuable lessons not just for the Golden State, but for regions around the world facing similar challenges. All of this brings us to a final, crucial question. How will California balance the competing needs of its growing population, its agricultural sector, and its unique ecosystems in a future where water is increasingly scarce? Share what you think about this in the comments below.